All right, today we're diving into a collection of so-called true scary stories that absolutely blew up online. But we're not just here for the jump scares. Nope, we're going to get under the hood. We're going to dissect these stories to figure out what makes modern fear tick and what they tell us about what we're all really afraid of. Let's get into it.
So what is it that really gets under our skin these days? I'll give you a hint. It's not ghosts. It's not goblins. The answer, as you're about to see, isn't some supernatural thing hiding out in the dark. It's something way more familiar, and that's what makes it so terrifying.
At the heart of all this is one simple, terrifying idea. The scariest things don't come from the unknown. They come from the things we think we know. It's all about the violation of trust, the corruption of places that are supposed to be our safe havens.
And this line just says it all, doesn't it? The biggest threats, the real monsters, they're human. They're hiding in plain sight, often with a friendly smile or a kind offer. The real horror kicks in when you realize the person you trusted is the one pulling all the strings of your nightmare.
So let's start with our first theme, which takes place in the one spot we all believe should be a fortress, our home. These stories are absolute masterclasses in twisting our need for security, turning a place of comfort into a carefully constructed trap. The main weapon used in these stories is something you could call a psychological siege. It's not a quick attack. It's this slow, methodical process of breaking someone down by making them doubt their safety and even their sanity inside their own four walls. And the dog sitter story? It's the perfect, chilling example.
Just look at how this builds. This isn't random. It starts small, right? A camera goes out. Okay, weird, but maybe it's just a glitch. Then a heavy chair gets moved, which makes you start questioning yourself. Did I do that? Then all the cameras go out. You hear a thump. Each little step is designed to ramp up the anxiety, to make the victim feel totally alone and paranoid, long before the trap finally springs.
This is the moment your stomach just drops. The dog sitter thinks she's talking to her employers who are hundreds of miles away. But this text, it confirms the terrifying truth. They are watching her, right now, in real time. The siege is over. She realizes she's just a piece in some twisted game she never even knew she was playing.
And this is the final nail in the coffin. After she manages to escape and texts them that a strange car just pulled up, this two-word reply hits like a sledgehammer. I know. It confirms everything. The whole thing, the noises, the cameras, the man in the garage, it was all a setup. They were in on it from the start.
So you see, the thing that makes your blood run cold isn't just the stranger in the garage. It's the homeowners, the people who gave her the keys, who trusted her with their pets. They were the real monsters. The horror is born from that total, calculated, and devastating betrayal of trust.
And this isn't a one-off theme. You see this pattern pop up over and over. Like the guy who hears a faint whistling. That, night after night, gets closer until it's inside his house. Or the neighbor who blasts fake party sounds on a loop to cover up whatever god-awful thing is happening in their basement. In every single story, the home stops being a shelter. It becomes the stage for the horror. Okay, so we've seen how they turn the home into a trap. Now the threat moves outside. This brings us to our second section, strangers in the shadows. This is where totally mundane, everyday places, a bar, a quiet lake, become the backdrop for something deeply wrong. Check out the bartender story. On the surface, it's a completely normal night. Loud music, people talking, total chaos. But if you look closer, there's this elderly couple just sitting there, motionless, not talking, not drinking, just staring at a blank wall. They're like a glitch in reality. The horror here is that chilling feeling that something is profoundly, fundamentally wrong, even when everyone else around you is completely oblivious. And this idea of twisting the normal world gets even clearer in the lake house story. What's so insidious about this one is how it uses our own goodness against us. You see an SOS signal, you want to help, right? That's human nature. But here, that empathy is the bait. It lures the victims into a pre-made trap. That moment they find the projector is just horrifying. The realization that this isn't a cry for help, it's an ambush.
And that brings us to our third section. So we've dealt with psychological games and hidden traps. Now we get to the part where the mask comes off completely. This is where we come face to face with the raw, unfiltered evil of the human monster, far from any chance of escape.
The logger story sets the scene perfectly. The key ingredient here is total isolation.
These guys are working on some remote mountain, so far out that it took them weeks just to clear a road to get there. There's no 911 to call, no quick way out. They are completely, utterly on their own.
And then they find the duffel bag. And what's inside? Well, just look at this list. There's nothing supernatural here. No ghosts. Just a cold, factual inventory of a predator's toolkit. That fresh apple is such a sick detail, isn't it? It means whoever owns this bag was here, and they were here very, very recently. The horror is just sickeningly real.
So you see the progression, right? It starts as this weird, muffled stuff over the radio, an unseen, creepy threat. But it doesn't stay that way. It becomes real. It becomes a violent, physical attack, and later, the murder of their coworker. This is the ultimate payoff of the fear we've been tracking. The monster is real, it's human, and it is absolutely lethal.
So after going through all of these awful scenarios, we have to ask the big question, which brings us to our final section. Why on earth do we listen to these stories? What is it about them that pulls us in?
Here's the thing that ties all of this together. Every one of these stories plugs directly into the same core fear, the breakdown of our social contract. We're supposed to be able to trust our employers, trust that a cry for help is real, trust that our neighbors aren't secretly monsters. These stories are so powerful because they whisper that those basic rules don't apply anymore, that the systems we rely on aren't just broken, they're being used as weapons against us.
And when you boil it all down, the recipe for this kind of modern fear is surprisingly consistent. It's always built on this foundation of betrayal, the invasion of a place you thought was safe, and that terrifying gut-punch realization that the monster isn't some creature, it's a person, someone just like you or me.
And that leaves me with one last thing to think about. We call them true stories, but are they really warnings about specific dangers, or are they more like modern folklore? You know, campfire tales for the internet age that give a shape and a face to our collective anxieties. Maybe, just maybe, in a world that feels so chaotic, these stories serve a strange kind of purpose. They put a name to the nameless dread we sometimes feel, making it something we can at least try to understand, even while it's scaring us half to death. It's definitely something to think about.